Dear viewers of the Charlie Wade series, there are many lessons to be learned from Charlie's actions toward the guilty. Please read chapters 2191 to 2210 until the end.
When Isaac heard the order, he immediately blurted out without hesitation, "Okay, Mr. Wade, I will arrange a plane to take the two of them to Sierra Leone. At that time, a special person will be arranged to guard them 24 hours a day 7 days a week, and they will never have a chance to escape." Charlie nodded in satisfaction, pointed to Hashimoto next to him, and said, "By the way, send this Japanese friend over." When Hashimoto heard this first, he was so scared that he wept bitterly. He sobbed and pleaded, "Mr. Wade, this matter is completely done by the father and son. The two of them are the masterminds. I am just a vessel. Please, you can't send me to Sierra Leone for anything, please let me go." Charlie sneered, "Hashimoto, you are not the mastermind, but that does not make you lesser of an offender. The nature of your crime is equally grave." After that, Charlie told Isaac again, "Mr. Isaac, make sure he reaches Sierra Leone with the son and father. I don't want a lesser of a treatment for him. Treat him equally as them. There must be no discrimination, do you understand?" Isaac nodded without hesitation and said, "Mr. Wade, don't worry, I'll make the proper arrangements." Charlie turned his head to look at Jim Song, the old man, and asked, "Master, are you satisfied with what I do with me? Father Song has spent his entire life in the mall with proper defense and decisive actions. When he learned that Tianming and Honor were going to attack him, he secretly prepared his mind that once the matter is turned around, he would never relent. But when as he sees everything unfolding before him, he realized that he still couldn't be completely indifferent. After all, they are his own sons and grandsons. If they really kill them, it would be a family tragedy. Just like killing the young by the old feeble man. As the saying goes, a poisoned tiger does not eat children. Although there have been sons killing their fathers over the years, few fathers killed their sons. The same is true for Mr. Song. Although life is boundless, but after all, it is hard to escape the words of an avarice. Who is an avarice? The avarice is the one who has endless passions and desires. At the critical moment, the unceasing affection of the flesh and blood is the trouble of Mr. Song. It was precisely because of this that he could only hand over these two people to Charlie. Now, Charlie decided to send them to Sierra Leone. Although the conditions were extremely difficult, in the final analysis, they still had their lives left. This also let old Song breathe a sigh of relief. So, he hurriedly said to Charlie respectfully, "Mr. Wade, no matter what decision you make, I don't have any comments." Charlie nodded, then asked Warnia, "Warnia, do you have any comments? If you have any comments, just express them." Warnia also hurriedly said, "Mr. Wade, I have no objection, everything is up to you." Charlie said, "Since everyone has no objections, then follow this, Mr. Isaac, let your people take the three of them to Africa. I don't want these eyesores here." Isaac immediately ordered several people in black, "Take the three of them under strict supervision. No mistakes are allowed, do you understand?" Everyone hurriedly said, "We understand." After that, he escorted these three people out. Tianming and Honor have been crying and begging for mercy. Tianming turned to look at Mr. Song and cried out, "Dad, please, for the sake of our father and son, help me. I beg you, Mr. Wade, please spare me. Otherwise I might die in Sierra Leone, Dad. Please do something." Old Song felt a pain in his heart. Charlie said, "Let them stay in Sierra Leone for 20 years. Tianming has crossed the age of 50 this year. When he goes to the extremely underdeveloped and poor area of Sierra Leone, he might not be able to survive for 20 years. It is very likely that he would die in Sierra Leone before the 20-year deadline. So now this may be the last time the father and son look at each other in their lives." Honor Song's legs were limp at this time, and he was dragged out by others. He pleaded bitterly, "Grandpa, I am only in my 20s. I don't want the best time of my life to be imprisoned in Sierra Leone, please help me, Grandpa." Father Song's expression was struggling and tangled. Charlie sternly shouted at this time, "Shut all their mouths up for me." Several people in black immediately gagged their mouths with something to make them speechless, and the scene immediately became much quieter. Then, all three were dragged out. Seeing this, Mr. Song sighed deeply, knowing that there was no possibility of maneuvering, as if he was more than 10 years old at once. Charlie had a panoramic view of his performance, shook his head lightly, and said loudly, "Master Song, you understand the process of raising tigers better than I do. You must not only consider yourself, but also Warnia. If these two troubling people are not eliminated, someday in the future after you leave, the two of them will become greatest threat to Warnias." After that, Charlie smiled slightly and continued, "As long as I, Charlie, will not let the two of them really threaten Warnia. That is to say, if the two of them remain at large, they will attack Warnia again in the future. At the time, I would not let them go. So, speaking of it, imprisoning them in Sierra Leone is not to protect Warnia, but to keep them alive, otherwise they will be reduced to ashes if they fly into the fire." Quote, Mr. Song was completely taken aback, and immediately looked at Warnia, and hurriedly said to Charlie, "Mr. Wade, you are right. Let them live and die in Sierra Leone." After all, Mr. Song looked at Warnia again and said, "Warnia, since you have returned now, the position of chairman of the Song Group is naturally yours. From now on, you will continue to preside over the affairs of the Song Group." Warnia nodded respectfully. "Okay Grandpa." Warnia got it. Grandpa Song instructed, "Warnia, Grandpa does not ask you to take the Song family group into a fierce fight. As long as you can stabilize the status quo and prevent the Song family group from going downhill, Grandpa will be very satisfied, so if you don't want to, I'm going to talk about retracting transnational cooperation. I would rather Song Group not open up any overseas markets or cooperate with any overseas companies, and I don't want you to fall into a dangerous situation again, understand?" Warnia nodded lightly and said, "Don't worry, Grandpa, I will definitely pay more attention to personal safety in the future. In addition, I think we can continue to cooperate with overseas companies. Avoidance is not the best option here." After speaking, she paused slightly and said, "This time, Mr. Wade helped me talk about the cooperation with Nippon Steel. The chairman of Nippon Steel, Watanabe Shinkazu, has signed a cooperation agreement with me in Japan. Under the agreement, the two parties will establish a joint venture to build a factory and invest in a 50-50 ratio, but Nippon Steel is willing to give 60% of the shares to our Song Group." What? As soon as these words came out, everyone on the scene was dumbfounded and speechless. Nippon Steel has always been very strong in foreign cooperation. They are even reluctant to give up 51% of the controlling stake. Even if the Song Group gives 60% of the income to Nippon Steel would still be unwilling. Give up controlling rights is not how they operate. Therefore, in the eyes of everyone on the scene, Nippon Steel is the most difficult bone to chew. However, Warnia said that Nippon Steel is now not only willing to give up the controlling rights, but also willing to give up 10% of the shares to the Song Group. This is simply a dream. Father Song originally thought that Warnia went to Japan to discuss cooperation this time, and encountered the cooperation of the Song family and outsiders. In order to prevent her from encountering such danger, he would rather want Warnia to give up the plan to expand any cooperate with overseas. However, he didn't expect her to get such a generous contract from Nippon Steel. Nippon Steel is a leader in the global steel industry. In this industry, their right to speak is extremely high. For companies like the Song Group, if they want to cooperate with others, they have to rush to ask. Not only have to ask for it, but also prepare the land and all local relations, and then invite Nippon Steel to come and cooperate. This feeling is tantamount to tidying up a bedroom in one's own house, and then rushing to other people's homes and asking them to stay for a few days. Attitude cannot be said to be unhumble. Generally speaking, the more unequal cooperation like this, the more unequal treaties must be signed. One of the most common unequal treaties is to give a lot of money and get a small head, and let others make big money and with a small head. However, who could have imagined that Warnia would have subverted the balance between the Song Group and Nippon Steel, letting Nippon Steel to pay a lot of money and take a small head? This was something that no one had ever imagined before. In the board of directors, many people think this is a fantasy. However, they didn't dare directly question Warnia, the chairman, so they could only whisper to each other. Soon, an old director stood up and said, "Chairman, as far as I know, Nippon Steel has never been willing to sacrifice controlling shares. Will the other party fulfill the contract you mentioned?" Or, there are any hidden clauses in the contract, or harsh gambling agreements. In fact, contract traps are indeed very common. Many established capitalists like to set their opponents or partners in the contract. Many entrepreneurs get generous investment from capitalists when they start their own businesses, and they are determined to do a big job. Well done, naturally everyone is happy. But if you don't do it well, it will be a big trouble. Some investors require the investee to add an unlimited joint and several liability clauses to the contract, not to mention that unlimited joint liability has only 6 characters, but the lack of power behind it can make the investee go to ruins. Because once the unlimited joint venture and liability is signed, if the transaction does not do well and loses money, the investor has the right to demand that the investee pays from his own pocket and compensate all the lost investment money. For example, the owner of Tangsun, which used to be a mobile phone company, signed unlimited joint venture and liability, so after the failure of the business, he still owed up to 400 million in debt. There are also many founders of companies who, because they cannot compensate investors, were eventually driven out of the companies they had worked so hard to create, and even went bankrupt and went to jail. Therefore, the directors are also worried about whether there are any similar gambling clauses in the agreement signed by Warnia. Warnia didn't explain much. She took out a contract from her backpack and said, "This is the original contract signed by Nippon Steel's chairman Shinwa Watanabe with me. You can check it out and see if there are any details in the terms, no problem." The old director stretched out his hand to accept the contract, and a crowd of other people waited hurriedly around. Even the old song couldn't hold back a bit, and stepped forward to see what happened in Japan. When everyone saw the contract, their eyes became bigger and bigger. This is indeed a formal contract, and the terms are clear and simple. There are no ambiguous marginal terms, and there is no content that hides business risks. At the end, there is indeed the official seal of Nippon Steel and the autograph of Watanabe Shinka. It is indeed a true and valid contract. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but be pleased. The old director excitedly said, "Oh, I have never seen Nippon Steel sign a contract with such a big concession. This can be said to be unprecedented. The face of our chairman Song is really great. A face, at least worth 2 or 3 billion. Even higher." Others also agreed. Yes, Chairman Song won such a favorable contract from Nippon Steel, which is almost unheard of in that company's history. If we announce this news to the outside world, the stock price will inevitably be rapid. In fact, skyrocket. Someone looked at the time and blurted out, "The news of Chairman Song's safe return is estimated to have been released by the media." This was originally good news. Now there is this Nippon Steel contract. Announced to the public, there are 2 big benefits. When our stock resumes trading, it will definitely increase its daily limit 3 or 4 in a row. The market value of the group can increase by 30 to 40%. Chairman Song, you have really taken the Song Group forward this time. Warnia said very seriously at this time. The reason why Nippon Steel's cooperation can be negotiated and can receive such large preferential terms is entirely because Mr. Wade helped plug the bridge. Nippon Steel's chairman Watanabe Shinka signed solely because of Mr. Wade, so thanks goes to Mr. Wade. After all, she looked at Charlie and said sincerely, "Mr. Wade, everything is thanks to you this time. If it weren't for you, I would have died in Japan. If it weren't for you, Grandpa would have been killed. The poison ruined the brain, not to mention that you can still get such favorable conditions as Nippon Steel. Warnia is so grateful." Charlie smiled slightly. "You don't need to be so polite, these are things that friends should do, just a little effort." After saying this, Charlie stood up and said, "Warnia, you just came back, and there are a lot of things in the group waiting for you to decide. I won't bother you much. It just happened to be out a few days ago. I have to go back soon. Home is waiting for me." When Warnia heard this, she immediately said with dismay, "Mr. Wade, I wonder if it is not convenient for you to have lunch together. You have done so much for us, and we have not had the opportunity to thank you." Ellipsis. Quote. Charlie smiled and said, "Didn't I say that you don't need to be so polite? You can do your work first. We can eat anytime we want to eat. We can make an appointment when you finish your work." Elder Song also said to the side, "Yes Warnia, Mr. Wade has been away from home for a few days for you, so he should go back soon and let his family see him." Warnia nodded her head. "Mr. Wade, then I will send you out. No need, Charlie said. You can continue to talk to everyone about work while they are here. You are back now, and Nippon Steel's cooperation has also been discussed. It stands to reason that one day should be held. The press conference is now, so take the time to prepare and strive to increase your influence. It will benefit you in the song group. Warnia nodded gratefully and said, "Okay Mr. Wade, Warnia knows, then you should leave. I will arrange a banquet another day, and you must come over by then." Charlie smiled and said, "Well, I will definitely come back for that." After that, he waved his hand to Mr. Song again. "Old man, I'm leaving now." Mr. Song hurriedly bowed deeply and said respectfully, "Mr. Wade, have a safe journey." Charlie stepped out of the report hall, and both Isaac and Orvel waited respectfully outside the door. Seeing him come out, Isaac hurried forward and said in a low voice, "Master, the car is ready, shall I take you home or?" Charlie said lightly, "Well, I think I'll go home." Orvel, who was on the side, also ran over and asked for instructions. "Mr. Wade, your aunt has been in village for the 9th day. For these 2 days, she has been crying and wailing all the time to go back, causing the neighbors of the city village to call 911 to complain. It's been several rounds, do you want to let her go?" When Charlie heard this, he was slightly astonished and asked, "Why haven't you let her go after 9 days? Didn't you say it is going to be only for 7 days? Orvel said with some embarrassment, "Mr. Wade, I think you have to tell me to let people go. I'm not good at making decisions." Isaac exclaimed, "Orvel, why haven't you let her go? This person is very temperamental. If you don't let her go at the fixed time, be careful she turns around and retaliates against you." Orvel smiled, scratched his head and said, I didn't think Mr. Wade had been saving Miss Song in Japan, and then came back by boat all the way back. It must have been very busy, so I didn't call Mr. Wade to ask about this. I wanted to tell you when you come back." Charlie nodded and said, "Okay, then let her go." Orvel hurriedly said, "Okay Mr. Wade, I will make the arrangements." Isaac said to Charlie at this time, "Master, I think you'd better go there and tell the old lady that it was your decision to delay her release for 2 days. Otherwise, once she returns to Eastcliff, she will definitely think about revenge." Orvel said without hesitation, "Get revenge on me. Let her go. I am Orvel, the one who has died once, so I am not afraid of her." Isaac waved his hand and said solemnly, "You don't understand Missy's style of behavior. She is a person who bears special grudges and has various methods to get even. If the young master offends her, she definitely can't do anything to the young master. If you offend her, then she will not only trouble you, but also your family and friends." Hearing this, Orvel suddenly became a little nervous. But he didn't want Charlie to look down on him, so he bit his head and said, "It's okay, I am not scared. I am Orvel." Isaac couldn't help sighing. He knew Cynthia's character too well. Charlie had originally let Cynthia stay here for 7 days, but Orvel let her stay for 9 days, then she would definitely be very stingy at the moment. Charlie has the strength and the old man is partial. She certainly dare not do anything to Charlie, but she will never let Orvel go. Otherwise, the anger she unleashes in Aurous Hill would have no place to spread. Therefore, out of concern for Orvel, he suggested that Charlie help him carry the pot. After all, Charlie had already offended Cynthia to death. Charlie's mother-in-law, Elaine, gave Cynthia a beating. With such a big hatred here, it would seem trivial to detain Cynthia for 2 more days. Charlie laughed at this moment and said, "Anyway, I should go and see my aunt myself." When Orvel heard this, he knew that Charlie was going to step up to plate for him. He was immediately grateful. So, he hurriedly bowed and said respectfully, "I'm sorry Mr. Wade, Orvel is causing you trouble." Charlie waved his hand, "Hey, don't say that. After all, you are all doing things for me, how can you say that it is causing me trouble?" After all, Charlie said to Isaac, "Mr. Isaac, prepare the car, let's go together." "Okay master." Cynthia was cursing his mother in the rental house at this time. "Charlie, you be at start who speaks no words. 7 days have passed, why didn't you let me out? You really have got guts, didn't let me out. Let me go out once, I will definitely settle accounts with all of you, one by one. Do you really think that I have a muddled mind? I am Cynthia. Let me go, now." Cynthia became more agitated as she scolded, and coughed continuously, cough cough cough, Cough cough cough. If you don't let me out, I will turn around and throw you all into the Yangtze River and feed you to the fish. Come, I want to kill all of you one by one so that you can never live beyond this day, no more life for you be it stars. No wonder Cynthia was hysterical. For 9 days, living in such a place where the lowest end population lived, she had completely collapsed. In addition, Aurous Hill is located in the south of the Yangtze River, and the winter is humid. The rental house she lives in has no air conditioning or heating. Every day, she can only wipe tears on the bed wrapped in a damp quilt. From the first second of moving in, she hurriedly escaped after expecting the expiration of the 7 days. Unexpectedly, at the gate, Orvel was unwilling to let her go. For Cynthia, this was not only anger but also sheer fear and exasperation. She was afraid that Charlie would regret it all at once, the 7-day period would be invalidated, and then she would not give herself a clear date, so she kept putting herself under house arrest. Therefore, she screamed like crazy every day, just to attract the attention of neighbors around her, to attract the police rescue's attention, to put pressure on Charlie and his man. She wanted to go out as soon as possible. However, she didn't know that Orvel had moved all the neighbors around yesterday. This self-built building, including the landlord, has a total of 30 residents. Now, except for Cynthia, everyone is enjoying it in the free 5-star hotel. Therefore, Cynthia's yelling and shouting into the vacuum. No one is paying any attention to it. Until her voice was almost hoarse, no one paid any attention to her, not even the neighbors or police officers who came to ask questions. Cynthia, who was extremely depressed, immediately took out her cell phone and sent a video to father, Zongquan, who was far away in Eastcliff. As soon as the video went through, Cynthia cried and said, "Dad. Please let that be it starred Charlie let me go. I really can't stand it anymore. If you don't let me out, I'll just die here, you. Watching the video, Zongquan sighed helplessly. He knows Cynthia's character very well, knowing that Cynthia is absolutely impossible to manage. She could even commit suicide or inflict self-harm, he said seriously. Cynthia. Calm yourself down. Isn't it just 2 days late? Be patient, Charlie, I'm sure, won't keep you locked up, maybe he will let you back in these 2 days. Cynthia cried and said, Dad. You don't know how I passed these 9 days. When I grew up and suffered such a crime, Dad. If you don't go to that be it starred Charlie, he won't let me go now, tomorrow I may not be released, what if he keeps me locked here? As she said, she pleaded again, Dad, I beg you, just give him a call and ask him to let me go. Zongquan said seriously, Cynthia, I finally asked Philip to persuade Charlie and promised to come back to participate in the ancestor worship ceremony on coming festival. This matter is extremely important to the Wade family. There should be no difference in what he says. If it is because of you, as a result of Charlie may change his mind again, that is definitely a great loss to the Wade family. Cynthia understood now. It turned out that the old man was unwilling to put pressure on Charlie. Mainly because he was unwilling to offend Charlie for her. When she thought that her father was unreliable, Cynthia was very sad, and cried, Dad. What if Charlie keeps me locked up, what should I do? The old man hurriedly said, Oh, Cynthia, if Charlie doesn't let you go on the next festival, Dad will definitely ask him for an explanation. Cynthia suddenly collapsed. Dad. The festival is going to be in April, and it is nearly 2 months away. Cynthia didn't want to continue this kind of hard day anymore. If you really have to wait until the April festival to go back, it is no different from killing her. Zongquan couldn't help but comforted. Cynthia, you just accept it and hold your temper and wait a few more days. If Charlie is not willing to let you go, I will call him. Cynthia naturally had thousands of grievances in her heart, so she didn't dare to say more. She secretly thought in her heart, I can see it now. In my father's eyes, Charlie is the most important person in the Wade family. After all, if he really marries Philip's daughter, then he will be one of the heirs of the GU family's trillion-dollar property, which will greatly help the Wade family. Under this situation, how can I compare myself with Charlie's importance to a married daughter in the eyes of my father? Hey, it seems I can only break my teeth and swallow it. So she could only say angrily, Okay Dad, I know. Then I will wait patiently for a few more days. If Charlie doesn't let me go in 3 or 5 days, then you will have to call him and talk. As she said, her nose sore, and she sobbed. Zhongquan comforted. Okay, don't worry, 3 days, if Charlie doesn't let you go after 3 days, Dad will call him personally. Cynthia nodded, choked up and said, Dad, okay then, I'll be waiting. Okay, goodbye. With the termination of the video call, the tears in Cynthia's eyes could no longer stop, pattering down. At this moment, she suddenly heard a knock on the door. Cynthia jumped up from the bed, and ran to the door in few steps, and pulled the door open. Before she could see the person outside, she cursed unbearably, You be at Stards, when are you going to let me out? Charlie looked at Cynthia with dull skin and swollen eye bags, frowned, and said, Auntie, the weather in Aurous Hill is so humid and cold. You have been here for 9 days. The anger hasn't been suppressed yet. When Cynthia saw that it was Charlie, she immediately questioned in annoyance, Charlie. You said you would let me go after 7 days, but my eyes have been shut here for 9 days by your people, why didn't you let me go? After all, she saw Orvel standing next to Charlie and angrily reprimanded, It's this be at Stard, who has detained me for 2 days in private, he's damned. Charlie said coldly, I meant to keep you for 2 more days. You did that? Cynthia asked indignantly. You obviously said 7 days, why turned them into 9 days? Why? Charlie snorted and said faintly, Are you, my aunt? It's hard to come here, how can you leave in only 7 days? Whatever you say, you can stay for 2 more days. Is that right? Cynthia was about to explode with Charlie's attitude of being scornful, and angrily rebuked, Charlie. You don't want to be fake with me. I don't know you yet. Let me tell you, you better not do something with me, let me go back quickly. Charlie shook his head lightly, sighed and said, It seems that in 9 days, you can't suppress your anger at all. The Eastcliff sky is dry, and your anger is so big, it will definitely be more serious when you go back. In my opinion, you should continue to stay in Aurous Hill for a few more days and let your anger completely extinguished before leaving. After that, he immediately said to Orvel next to him, Orvel. Orvel hurriedly bowed his hands, Mr. Wade, what are your instructions? Charlie smiled and said, My aunt still needs to stay in Aurous Hill for a few more days. During this time, I will trouble you to continue to watch her strictly. Everything is the same as before. Orvel hurriedly asked, Mr. Wade, how many days did you say, how many days is it? Charlie thought for a while and laughed, So, let's go for 7 days. It will be a whole week to get the balance. If these 7 days don't work, it proves that my aunt is too angry, then we have to give her some more days. It's a big treat. Orvel smiled and said, Okay Master Wade, I know. What Charlie thought at this time was, Cynthia, you are not my parents' daughter, don't act like a queen here. You still haven't repented. If you are stubborn, don't blame my subordinates. Ruthless, this can cure your attitude, that is what I hope. Hearing Charlie's words, Cynthia's face instantly turned pale. Her tone instantly softened, and she begged with sobs, Charlie. You can't be like this. I have been tortured for the past 9 days such that I don't look like a human being anymore. Do you know what life I've had these 9 days? Have you eaten the food they give me? The oily water is fine, there is no facial cleanser, no facial mask, not even an eyeliner. My skin condition is so bad that I'm dying. It will take at least a month to get it back. If you keep me locked up for another 7 days, then my skin will be really finished. Charlie put away the smile on his face and said solemnly, My good aunt, you still don't understand why I want you to stay in Aurous Hill, stay here. I let you stay here, so that you can put away your temper and learn to be a good woman. If you can do it, I will let you go, if you can't do it, I will let you stay until you can do it. That's it. As for whether your skin is good or bad, what does it have to do with me? Cynthia was extremely angry, but on the surface, she still begged with a grieved expression, Charlie, I am your aunt, we are family, how can you treat me like this? Charlie smiled and said, Oh, you are starting to treat me as a family now. Why didn't you treat me like family when you came from Eastcliff to tell me? Family. Cynthia was extremely embarrassed and quibbled, I did it for you. Charlie smiled and said, So you did everything for my good. Cynthia said flatly, Oh, of course. I'm your aunt, if I'm not good for you, for whom should I? Charlie clapped his hands and said with a smile, "That's a coincidence, Aunt. I am doing this now for your own good. You must not let down my good intentions you." After that, he looked at Cynthia with a serious expression. "Continue to say, I now give you two choices. The first one, you honestly stay here for another 7 days. In these 7 days, you are not allowed to swear, you are not going to go crazy, you are not allowed to chirp and yell here. If you behave well, in 7 days, I will tell my people to let you go." After listening, Cynthia asked, "What about the second choice?" Charlie said coldly, "The second option is to stay here for another month. This month, if you want to swear, you can swear, if you want to go crazy, you can go mad, if you want to yell, just yell as you want. Scream, I'll be in a good mood after a month. If I am in a good mood, then you can go straight back. But if I'm in a bad mood, I'm sorry, I might have to stay with you for a while and do my best as a landlord." Cynthia really took it. Although she still hated Charlie in her heart, after Charlie's words, she did not dare to continue to bargain with Charlie. She has realized that Charlie's character and acting style cannot be suppressed by her. In addition, Aurous Hill is Charlie's territory, and the old man is also facing Charlie now. She has no other way except forbearance. If you can't afford it, you have to hold it. So, she could only suppress all the anger and dissatisfaction in her heart, and honestly said, "Okay. I choose the first one." Charlie nodded, and then said to Orvel, "Orvel, you have heard it. In the next 7 days, you must let your people give her strict supervision. If there are any more yellings and screamings on the street, let me know as soon as possible." Orvel hurriedly stood up straight and said loudly, "Mr. Wade, don't worry, it will definitely be taken care of." Charlie gave a hum, and then said, "If she is doing well, as soon as 7 days are up, she will be taken to the airport directly, and there is no need to ask me for instructions." "Okay, Mr. Wade." Charlie looked at Cynthia again and said seriously, "Auntie, it is not my purpose to keep you in Aurous Hill. It is the key to let you learn to respect others. I have already said what I need to say, so you can do it yourself." After speaking, he didn't bother to listen to what Cynthia said, turned around and went out. Cynthia was extremely angry, but she dared not show any dissatisfaction. She didn't even dare to vent her emotions by shouting, for fear that Charlie's men would not be able to get along with her again. Orvel said to Charlie very gratefully and ashamedly, "Mr. Wade, I didn't get things done by myself, and I want to say sorry. I'm really sorry, I'm causing you trouble." In Orvel's heart, he really felt ashamed. Charlie said that he would release Cynthia after 7 days, but after the 7-day deadline, he did not dare to release her directly, but wanted to wait for Charlie to return and report to him before releasing her. However, he didn't think about it at the time, so he offended Cynthia and what would happen. For Orvel, people like Cynthia are definitely big people with great supernatural powers. If she wants to rectify Orvel and Orvel's family, Orvel has no ability to resist at all. So he was very grateful that Charlie came over at this time and carried this pot for himself. Moreover, he is equally grateful to Isaac. Had it not been for Isaac's reminder, he might have never thought of this. It is very likely that when Cynthia retaliated, he still hadn't figured out why. Seeing him thanking, Charlie waved his hand and said, "You are doing things for me, so you don't have to be so polite about it." After finishing speaking, he looked at Isaac on the side and exhorted, "Mr. Isaac, Ruoli Sioux is over there. You must keep an eye, and also help me pay attention to the current movement of the Sioux family." Isaac nodded immediately and said, "Master, don't worry, I will arrange Eastcliff's men to help me keep an eye on the Sioux family." Charlie said, "Okay, Orvel go to work, Mr. Isaac take me home." Charlie sat in Isaac's Rolls Royce, and the first thing was to call Ito Nanako, who was in Japan. On the one hand, he wants to report her safety, on the other hand, he wants to inquire about the situation in Japan. After all, Ruoli Su's escape from such an important prison is probably unacceptable to the Japanese Metropolitan Police Department, the Japanese Self-Defense Forces, and the entire region. Once the phone was connected, Ito Nanako's voice came over, "Mr. Charlie, have you already arrived in Aurous Hill?" Charlie smiled and said, "Yes, how do you know?" Ito Nanako smiled and said, "I was following the news in Aurous Hill and found that some media were promoting the news that Miss Song had returned. Since she has returned to Aurous Hill, Charlie must have arrived too." "Yes. Charlie smiled slightly and said, "We arrived in the morning, and we rushed to the song group as soon as we got back, so I'm sorry to report this to you late." Nanako Ito smiled and said, "Charlie is too polite, you have to be busy with business, don't need to contact me for the first time, as long as you are like this, just tell me when you are done." Charlie sighed in his heart, this Ito Nanako is really gentle and considerate. If anyone marries such a woman in the future, that would be a blessing for a lifetime. Thinking in his heart, he couldn't help shaking his head, driving the thought out of his mind, and asked, "Nanako, is there any activity in Tokyo?" "Has." Nanako Ito said, "A major incident happened in Tokyo the night before. Ruoli Su, the first criminal who killed the Matsumoto family, escaped from prison. This incident only broke out yesterday afternoon. It was said that Ruoli Su was dropped. People have disappeared. The Metropolitan Police Department and the self-defense forces are going crazy, and they are conducting carpet searches across the country." After speaking, Nanako Ito said again, "The impact of this incident in Japan is very bad. The director of the TMPD has already taken the blame and resigned this morning. A friend of my father, a senior of the Tokyo Homeland Security Bureau, was in danger, took over the post of director of the TMPD." Charlie couldn't help but laugh secretly when he heard this. This TMPD is really unlucky. This incident, at first glance, was that the Su family was secretly engaged with the top officials of the Japanese self-defense forces. According to the confession of the captain of the ship Ruoli Su last time, this incident is that the Japanese self-defense force first handed over the people to the TMPD, and then placed them together with the TMPD and Sus family. In his hand, he exchanged the person, and then threw the pot to the TMPD. They originally wanted the TMPD to take the blame, and then the self-defense forces would catch Ruoli Su again, so as to enhance the influence of the Japanese self-defense forces in the country. But I didn't expect that in the middle of this matter, Charlie suddenly popped out and brought Ruoli Su back to the country. In this way, the loss of the Japanese self-defense forces is not too great. After all, the TMPD is carrying the pot, and they are just emptying out. But the TMPD is really bad. People are theirs, and the responsibility rests with them. If they fail to catch Ruoli Su, they would be a shameful criminal in the Japanese judicial field and a fair criminal in Japan. So Charlie said to Ito Nanako, "Your captain and crew are still on the way back. After they return, they should tell you that Ruoli Su has been captured." Ito Nanako asked in surprise, "Ah. Charlie, why did you catch Ruoli Su? You two know each other." Charlie smiled and said, "I have some personal grievances with her. After sailing that day, she wanted to kill me at sea, but unfortunately, she was not as skilled and was caught by me." Ito Nanako hurriedly asked, "Then Charlie, are you okay?" "I'm fine." Charlie smiled. "Now Ruoli Su is in my hands, but I still hope you keep it secret for me." Ito Nanako said without hesitation, "Charlie, please rest assured, I will keep it secret for you." Charlie said again, "Oh right, Nanako, you just said that the newly appointed head of the TMPD is your father's friend." "Yes." Nanako Ito explained, "He is my dad's college classmate and one of his best friends." Charlie smiled and said, "Then I think it is for you, I will give him a big gift." Chapter 2201. When Nanako heard this, she asked in surprise, "Charlie, what kind of gift are you going to give him?" Charlie smiled and said, "Presumably he is still anxious to get answers. Angry because he doesn't understand why Ruoli disappeared and why she was dropped by someone." Nanako said, "This is indeed the case. Dad said that my uncle is under a lot of pressure now because it is difficult to do this kind of critical task. The main reason is that the expectations of the people are too high. If you do it well, everyone will be happy, but if you fail, it's very likely to make you suffer and face the anger of the people." Charlie agreed and said, "Yes, this kind of thing is a double-edged sword. If you don't use it well, you will hurt yourself." After speaking, Charlie said with a smile, "But, the gift I give him can make him turn this double-edged sword into a single-edged sword." Nanako asked in amazement, "Charlie, what do you mean by this? A double-edged sword becoming a single-edged sword?" "Right," Charlie said with a smile. "In other words, with my gift, he doesn't have to worry about harming himself if this sword is not used well." Nanako hurriedly said, Charlie, what exactly is this great gift you are talking about? Charlie smiled and said, you tell him that the reason why Ruoli was dropped is that the Sioux family and the Japanese self-defense forces are working in collusion against the TMPD. Ah. Nanako's voice was extremely surprised. Charlie, what you said is true. The Sioux family really colluded with the self-defense forces. Charlie asked her, when did I lie to you? Nanako hurriedly explained, Charlie, I didn't mean that. I just thought, this thing is too subversive. How can the self-defense force, as part of the army, be so absurd? Charlie smiled and said, there could be 1,000 interpretations. The reason why the Sioux family and the self-defense forces fly and stalk each other is not for profit. The main reason is that the Sioux family's energy is too large to cover the sky. You tell your dad's friend, let him focus on breakthroughs from the self-defense forces, and he will definitely make significant progress. After speaking, Charlie said again, as long as your uncle can find real evidence of collusion between the self-defense forces and the Sioux family, even if there is no way to capture Ruoli back, you can still fight a beautiful turnaround on behalf of the Metropolitan Police Department. Nanako also knew very well that before Charlie didn't tell her about this, the key point of this matter was whether her uncle could smoothly arrest Ruoli. But now, the key point of this matter has immediately changed. As long as the uncle finds absolute evidence that it is indeed the Sioux family and the self-defense force that replaced Ruoli, the Metropolitan Police Department can instantly get rid of all responsibilities, and all the gangsters will be dumped to the Sioux family and the self-defense force. Thinking of this, Nanako hurriedly said with joy, Charlie, then I will inform my uncle first, thank you for this great gift. As long as the trouble is solved, I will ask uncle to thank you, Charlie. I will ask him to thank you personally. Charlie smiled and said, you don't have to be so polite, as long as I come to Japan in the future, or if there is anything I need, you will help me I know, so there is nothing to be polite about. Nanako blurted out, Charlie, don't worry. My uncle has always been very affectionate and righteous. If he can come back with Charlie's help this time, he will definitely remember Charlie's kindness. Charlie smiled and said, then I will reveal a little more information. You must ask him to check the maritime self-defense force that went to sea last night. The inner ghost must be out of this group of people. Everyone catches them all for a sudden trial, and they will definitely find a breakthrough. Nanako thought for a moment and said, the level of the self-defense force is higher than that of the Metropolitan Police Department. If you arrest people directly, it may be difficult to push, and the self-defense force will definitely interfere. Charlie smiled and said, isn't he from the Homeland Security Department? As far as I know, Homeland Security is the most important thing for any country. Therefore, people in the Homeland Security Department must be higher than the military. He can ask his former colleagues or leaders to help, and the Homeland Security Department will come forward to arrest people in the self-defense force. I believe the self-defense force has absolutely no guts to interfere. After a pause, Charlie said again, after the Homeland Security Department catches people, they can be handed over to the TMPD for interrogation. No matter how many people are caught, they will all be isolated and interrogated separately. Find the key clue. Nanako couldn't help exclaiming, Charlie, your method is really great. I will tell him now. Thank you on behalf of my uncle. Charlie smiled and said, okay, you can tell him quickly, I'm just waiting to see this great show of tide reversal. Charlie only revealed to Nanako that the Sioux family colluded with the self-defense forces and exchanged for Ruoli, but did not tell her that the whole thing was that the Sioux family and the self-defense forces played the game together. On the surface, it was a release, but it was actually a left-hand invert of these inside stories. This is mainly because these words do not have much meaning when they come out of his mouth. Moreover, the more clues you give, the easier it is to interfere with the opponent's concentration. Therefore, he only talked about the secret trade between the Sioux family and the self-defense forces, and the rest, let the uncle of Nanako follow the clues he gave, go in depth, and let him dig out the background. That would be more lethal. At this moment, Eastcliff, Sioux family mansion. Ruoli and the accompanying crew members hadn't heard any news for so long, making Chungfeng Su anxious. Zin Su was also worried about this matter. It's just that Zin didn't know the inside story of the whole thing. He thought that the Sioux family had an accident while rescuing Ruoli. So he asked Changfeng a little anxiously, "Dad, what the hell is going on? Don't our people want to take Ruoli back to China by the waterway? Why suddenly there is no news, and only the ship is the one left by the Japanese?" The guard intercepted, "Where did Ruoli go?" Changfeng said depressedly, "How do I know? I know as much about the whole thing as you do. You ask me, how can I answer you?" Zin saw his father's tone a little irritated and hurriedly apologized. "Dad, calm down, and I am not targeting you. It's just that this fact is too weird. My heart is always hanging. This should not go wrong." Changfeng said coldly, "I have sent someone to Japan to investigate this matter. Once there is any news, I will communicate it to you as soon as possible." Zin sighed worriedly, and said, "Dad, who did you communicate with, in the Japanese self-defense force? How about giving me contact information and I will call him to see if there are any missed clues?" As soon as Changfeng heard this, he became frustrated, and said to him, "May I give you your contact information? The grandson of the Japanese self-defense force now thinks I've played with him and is chasing after me asking me to give him an explanation. Call him, wouldn't Master's overall plan become clear to the whole world?" Thinking of this, he said with a dark face, "I said, I have sent someone to investigate, and news will be sent to you simultaneously. Do you have any comments on my arrangements?" Seeing his father a little angry, Zin hurriedly stood up, bowed, and said, "Dad, calm down your anger, I didn't mean that, I am just worried about Ruoli. Anyway, Ruoli is my flesh, she is currently unsure of her life and death, her whereabouts are unknown, I am indeed too anxious." Elder Cheng looked at him coldly, and said word by word, "Zin, to do big things, you must have the strong heart of a lion and not change your face, and the disappearance of an illegitimate girl will make you panic like this. So what? If I die today, can you still manage the Su family?" As soon as Zin heard this, his whole person was instantly worried. He murmured in his heart, "The old man started to doubt my heart and my ability. This is not a good sign. If I show too much concern about Ruoli on this matter and behave too nervously, the old man will definitely think that I am weak and not strong enough to be promoted to the position of Su family patriarch. If it is because of Ruoli's matter that affects the old man's judgment of the successor, then it is really not worth the gain." Thinking of this, Zin said with an awe-inspiring expression, "Dad, don't worry. No matter how this matter turns out, I will never let it affect me." Old man Su looked at him suspiciously, and said coldly, "Will it affect you? It's not your mouth that has the final say, but my old man's eyes have the final say." Zin hurriedly said, "Dad, you are right. I will show you with practical actions." Elder Su gave a hum and waved his hand. "Okay, you can go now." Zin respectfully said, "Good dad, I'll go out first." Changfeng coldly reminded, "If Ruoli is still alive, then I believe she will contact you. If she contacts you, you must tell me the first." Zin said without hesitation, "Dad, don't worry, if she contacts me, I will report to you as soon as possible." Changfeng gave a hum and waved his hand. "Go." Zin quickly turned around and hurriedly left Old Su's study. At this time, Zin's back was already wet with cold sweat. After living in a rich family for a long time, he increasingly felt that the rich family is no different from the ancient palace-dwelling families. The lord of the wealthy family in the ancient days would be a king and his heir would be the prince below. Although he has been appointed by the old man as the prince, who will inherit the Su family in the future, he still holds the power, and he must always be cautious and walking on thin ice. Otherwise, it is very likely that he might say something wrong and provoke the lord's anger upon himself, then he will mercilessly be dismissed. There are so many princes who were deposed because of their words and demeanor who rebelled against the Lord in ancient times. World history is full of such events. A wise man must learn from history and correct his course. Falling from grace for the prince was not the only worry. There are historical proofs when the princes had to the fact trial, house arrests, and face the death penalty for defying an order from their kings. Zin was also worried that if he caused the old man's dissatisfaction because of Ruoli's affairs, and if the old man abolished him, his loss would be extremely heavy, and most of his life's efforts would be wasted. Thinking of this, Zin decided that regarding Ruoli, he must control his emotions as much as possible in front of the old man, and must not let the old man have any dissatisfaction with him. The daughter is important, but the position of the Su family patriarch is even more important. What's more, this daughter is still his illegitimate daughter. Here, the old man Su rushed into Zin and made a fire, and he was more or less worried. In fact, the main reason why he got angry with Zin was mainly to hide his guilty conscience. After all, he made the decision to betray Ruoli. The old man had already settled an account. The crimes committed by Ruoli in Japan are extremely heinous. He really wants to buy the relevant personnel to release her. Not to mention the huge cost, it is easy to offend the Japanese government. Therefore, he planned to cooperate with the Japanese self-defense force, get Ruoli out by himself, and then let the self-defense force capture her back and sell the self-defense force a favor. After all, the Japanese self-defense force still has a lot of energy in the Japanese government. As long as it has a good relationship with the self-defense force, it will be very convenient to develop in Japan in the future and cooperate with the Japanese government. However, the old man never dreamed that such a big change would happen to the original seamless plan. Ruoli's disappearance put him in a dilemma now. On the one hand, he did not know how to explain to the Japanese self-defense forces and how to eliminate the indignation of the Japanese people towards the Su family. On the other hand, he didn't know whether Ruoli was dead or alive. If she was still alive, would she already be cognizant to his doings in secret? What if she knew about it and retaliate in the future? While he was irritable, his most trusted subordinate hurried over and said in a low voice, "Master, Masaji Honda of the Japanese Self-Defense Force has called again. He has given us 24 hours. If we don't hand over Ruoli to them in the next 24 hours, the $1 billion deposit we gave them will not come back. Also, Masaji Honda is very angry now. He thinks we are playing with them on purpose, so he said, if we don't hand over Ruoli, then he will assume we are his enemies, and this will not end up well for us." Elder Su sighed and cursed, very annoyed. Damn. Where did Ruoli go? A breathing person, she can't disappear out of thin air. The subordinate hurriedly said, now all the police in Japan are looking for the whereabouts of Ruoli. The self-defense forces are also investigating all passing ships at sea. If Ruoli is still in Japan, it is only a matter of time before she is found. She has already left Japan, so she must have left Japan by water. Based on the time since her disappearance, she should have returned to China. Elder Su frowned tightly and said coldly, if it's the former, it's okay, but if it's the latter, it will be troublesome. She has no reason not to contact Su's family when she returns to China unless she already knows the truth. In that case, we will face trouble in the future. After that, he immediately ordered, immediately send someone to monitor the He family. If Ruoli returns to China, if she does not contact us, she will definitely contact her family and closely monitor all the He family's movements. Report any disturbances to me immediately. At this moment, Tokyo, Japan. 48-year-old Suzuki Tomohisa was standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of the office where he had just taken office, unable to do anything. He is the new director of the TMPD. Prior to this, he was a middle-level senior in the Homeland Security Department. He was very well known in the Homeland Security Department because he was very good at investigating and had a very hard wrist. This time, Ruoli was found to have dropped the package, and the whole of Japan was shocked. The Japanese government was overwhelmed by this, and the TMPD became a target of public criticism. There is really no way, the Japanese government can only let Suzuki Tomohisa take orders. However, Suzuki Tomohisa didn't want to take this mess either. As a wise man, he generally stays away from such cases that shock the whole country. Because cracking such a case is certainly very advantageous, but if you fail, you will definitely disappoint the people of the whole country. For so many years, Suzuki Tomohisa has relied on a steady and slow fight, a little bit of experience, success stories, and his own reputation. Therefore, he likes to take on tasks that are not so challenging and difficult. He didn't want to interfere with such a challenging and difficult task. Because, it was hard for him to rely on a steady fight until today, and he can continue to maintain this style until retirement. In that case, he will be able to retreat and reap the admiration of the people across the country. Now this extremely difficult task, being able to complete it will certainly make him leap a big step forward. But if it is not done, it will also waste the reputation and status that he has gained over the years. It is like a gambler who has won a lot of money and plans to leave the game with the money after playing a few cards. However, at this moment, the dealer asked him to bet on stud and put in all the money he had won so far. Only fools are willing to do such things. But Suzuki Tomohisa couldn't help it. After all, he works in the National Security Department. After all, he is a national civil servant. What the Japanese government wants him to do, he has no room for bargaining at all. Now, it is a foreign woman he has never met that determines the future trajectory of his life. And he only knew that this woman was called Ruoli, who was the main murderer of the Matsumoto family. As long as he could catch her, he would be well known throughout Japan, but if he could not catch her, he would disappoint the whole nation. He will be a sinner in the eyes of the Japanese people. As for where is Ruoli? Is she still alive? He has no clues at all. He stretched on the chair and said, even if I can't find Ruoli, I must at least find out how she got away under everyone's eyes. Now that the double has been poisoned and died, and several people responsible for her transportation have also disappeared for no reason. The Metropolitan Police Department could not find any valuable clues. Just when he scratched his scalp and didn't know where to start, his deputy pushed in and said embarrassingly, Mr. Suzuki, there are many media reporters outside. Not only are domestic NHK and Asahi Shimbun but also there are many top overseas media including BBC and CNN, they all want to interview you. Interview me. Suzuki Tomohisa said with a black face, I just took office, what can I do for an interview? The deputy said, they want to know the progress of Ruoli's disappearance case. Suzuki angrily said, can you help me tell them that there is no progress on this matter? If there is any substantial progress, then I will definitely announce it to the national and even the world media through the press conference. The deputy nodded. Okay Mr. Suzuki, I can definitely do that. Tomohisa stopped him and said, oh yes, from now on, no media reporters are allowed to enter the TMPD without invitation or permission. Okay, Roger sir. After the deputy went out, Tomohisa rubbed his temples distractedly and said to himself, hey. As long as you are in danger, you have never had any good things. This case has such a great influence. Not only the people of the whole country are paying attention, but even overseas media are interested. If you don't handle it well, your reputation may be ruined. It's FC King Tricky. As he was thinking about it, the phone rang suddenly. Hearing the ringing of the cell phone, his scalp suddenly numbed, and his veins jumped. What he is most afraid of now is answering the phone. Not just that various media outlets try their best to find out his mobile phone and want to interview him over the phone. There are many leaders of government departments who are constantly asking about the progress of the investigation of the entire case. He is troubled by it. When he looks at the screen of her mobile phone, he realized that it was the daughter of his good brother, Nanako. The Suzuki family and the Ito family were originally family friends. He and Takehiko Ito have been close friends since they were young, and they also attended the same university. Although they are not brothers, they are not anything less than the brothers. Therefore, Nanako seemed to him as his half-daughter. Seeing that it was Nanako's phone call, his irritable mood was greatly relieved. He got on the phone and squeezed a little smile, and asked, Nanako, dear, what makes you call me, is everything all right? Nanako hurriedly said, Uncle Suzuki, everything is good, don't worry. Uncle, I heard that you have recently been transferred to the TMPD to investigate the case of Ruoli's disappearance. Yes. Tomohisa asked, have you heard of it? Yes. Nanako said, Uncle Suzuki, have you found any useful clues? Tomo Suzuki sighed, there is no clue so far, this Ruoli is almost as if she has evaporated. Nanako hesitated for a moment and said, Uncle Suzuki, I have a very good friend. When I called me just now, he revealed a little clue to me, so I called you quickly, it might be of great help. As soon as Tomo Suzuki heard this, he immediately asked excitedly, Nanako, what you said is true. Who is your friend? What clue did he give you? Nanako solemnly said, Uncle Suzuki, I'm sorry about the identity of my friend, I can't tell you. While speaking, Nanako said again, as for the clue he gave me, he told me that the reason why Ruoli was silently transferred is not because of TMPD. It is linked to the Su family and the Self-Defense Force. The Self-Defense Force? Tomo Suzuki asked in amazement, is the Self-Defense Force also involved in this matter? Right, Nanako said. My friend said that it was the Sioux family and the self-defense forces who united and sacked Ruoli, and then deliberately dumped the pot to the TMPD. Tomohisa hurriedly asked, then what is your informant's intention? Did they want to rescue that Ruoli back to Sus house? No, Nanako said. Their purpose is to throw Ruoli's scapegoat to the TMPD, and then the self-defense force will capture Ruoli back at sea and take all the credit. What? Tomo Suzuki was dumbfounded, and blurted out, Nanako, what you said, is true. Nanako said seriously, this is what my friend told me. I believe him. He said that if you want to seize this clue, you can use your relationship with the National Security Department to take the boats in the Japanese sea that patrolled at Tokyo port yesterday. All the members of the self-defense forces should be taken away for quarantine review, there should be a breakthrough. Nanako's words overturned all Tomo Suzuki's guesses and inferences about the whole matter. He never dreamed that the self-defense forces could also get involved in this kind of thing, and a strong wave of anger hit his heart immediately. Immediately, Tomohisa gritted his teeth and said, Nanako, thank you and your friends for reminding me. I will definitely bring all the relevant persons responsible for the trial as soon as possible. Nanako smiled and said, Uncle Suzuki, I hope this clue can help you. Tomo Suzuki said confidently, Nanako, if this clue is true, then it really helped me a lot. After that, Tomo Suzuki hurriedly said, Nanako, I have to make arrangements for arrest. Good Uncle Suzuki. Tomohisa hung up the phone and immediately contacted his old leader of the Homeland Security Department. The clues provided by Nanako are of great importance. If the self-defense forces really participate in the removal of Ruoli, this is not only a national scandal but also a major Homeland Security incident, so it must be thoroughly investigated. The leaders of Japan's Homeland Security Department also paid great attention to this matter after hearing about it, and almost immediately sent a very high-level Homeland Security expert to fully cooperate with Tomo Suzuki to conduct a thorough investigation of this matter. The relevant person in charge of the self-defense force at this time does not know that he has been exposed. They are constantly putting pressure on the Sioux family, forcing them to hand over Ruoli. Now the people of the whole country are paying attention to this case. As long as the self-defense forces can arrest Ruoli and bring her to justice, they can make a great contribution. However, even if the Sioux family is unwilling to hand over Ruoli, it does not matter. After that, this matter has the TMPD's back. In short, the self-defense force feels that although what they did this time is not a successful big deal, it is definitely a deal that will not lose money. However, they did not expect that the nation's Land Security Department of the Metropolitan Police Department had already targeted them. An invisible big net has been slowly spreading towards part of the high-level self-defense forces. At this time, Charlie had just returned home. Pushing the door and entering, he heard the dining room is very lively. Claire was chatting with people. Hearing the movement of the door opened, she came out to check. When she saw that Charlie had returned, she exclaimed with joy, "Husband! Why did you come back without saying hello or making a sound?" Charlie smiled and said, "I didn't just finish my business, because a customer was in Japan and said that he was going to come back by private jet, so I just took a ride back." Claire nodded, stepped forward to hold his hand, and said with a smile, "Husband, it takes 2 or 3 hours for you to fly from Japan. Surely you didn't eat at noon?" Charlie smiled and said, "No, I'll go home as soon as I'm done." Claire smiled and said, "Then you came back just right. Elsa just came back from Eastcliff today. I asked her to come to eat at home. We just opened the red wine, so we can eat together." With that, she took Charlie and walked into the dining room. In the dining room, Elsa was chatting with Jacob and Elaine. When Claire came in holding Charlie's hand, her expression immediately turned into that of surprise. She went back to Eastcliff for a few days during the Chinese New Year holiday and missed Charlie for a few days, so she couldn't wait as soon as she got off the plane this morning and came here to visit Claire with gifts. Said to come to see Claire, but what she wanted was to see Charlie. However, it was discovered after arrival that Charlie was not at home. It turns out that Charlie went to Japan a few days ago because of an emergency, and has not returned. This made Elsa feel a little bit lost, and the originally high mood instantly dimmed a lot. Just half an hour ago, Claire's family left her at home for lunch. She was still a bit hesitant, thinking that Charlie was not at home. At this time, staying at Claire's home for lunch was a waste of time without Charlie. But now she feels, she took a good decision. She wanted to say that she would just wait for the next visit, but couldn't hold back Claire's enthusiasm. She had no choice but to agree. Nevertheless, she really didn't expect that Charlie would come back before eating this meal. Therefore, at this moment, Elsa looked at Charlie with a hint of excitement. Jacob and Elaine were naturally very happy to see Charlie returned. Jacob's calligraphy and painting association is resting these days. He faces Elaine at home every day, and he is almost annoyed to death. Seeing Charlie's come back, he is naturally very happy. As for Elaine, she was even happier. When she saw Charlie, she said happily, "Oh my good son-in-law, you can be counted as coming back after so many days. Don't you know how much Mom missed you these days?" As she said, her eyes couldn't help but look at Charlie's hand. When Charlie went to other places recently, he always brought her all kinds of high-end gifts back, so she also looked forward to what gifts Charlie would bring to her this time. However, Charlie had empty hands at this time, and it didn't look like he had prepared a gift. Elaine was somewhat disappointed in her heart, but she was too embarrassed to show it. After that, her current attitude towards Charlie had changed drastically from before. She felt that Charlie was an out-and-out good son-in-law. Even if Charlie didn't bring her a gift this time, she was not upset except for a little disappointment. At this time, Charlie also realized that when he came back in a hurry and didn't prepare a small gift for Elaine, Elaine would definitely feel a little lost. So he walked up to Elaine, sat down beside her, and said with a smile, "Mom, I'm so sorry. This time I wanted to buy some gifts for you from Japan to bring back, but suddenly a friend wanted to take a private jet home. When the plane returned to China, I temporarily took him downwind, so I didn't have time to buy gifts." Elaine hurriedly waved her hand. "Oh, my son-in-law, I am already very happy if you have the mom in your heart. As for gifts, there is no need to buy them every time." Charlie nodded and smiled casually. "Mom, I will transfer you 200,000 on PayPal later. Take it and buy something, it's just a little bit of care for you." When Elaine heard this, she asked with excitement, "Oh my God, my son-in-law. What you said is true." Charlie smiled and said, "Can there be fakes?" "Mom, wait a moment, I will transfer the money." After that, he took out his mobile phone and directly transferred 200,000 cash to Elaine via PayPal. Elaine received the PayPal push and opened it. It was Charlie who gave her 200,000, so she clicked to receive it excitedly, clapped her hands happily, and smiled. "Oh. What a life of my Elaine. I found a good son-in-law." Jacob on the side shook his head repeatedly and said to Charlie, "Good son-in-law, in the future, give your mother a little less money. If she has a little money, she will suffer. You know that since she broke her leg again, until now, how many things have you bought online? A room is almost filled with her stuff." Elaine glared at him and scolded, "Jacob, take care of your mouth and don't spit out stinky bullsh. What's the matter with you? I think you are jealous of my son-in-law being so kind to me." Jacob said angrily, "You just speak bullsh. Elaine curled her lips and said, "What's wrong? I speak bullsh. I bullsh. Where is your mouth calling or something?" Jacob's angry old face flushed, and he snorted coldly, "I really don't bother to take care of the words coming out of your mouth. Such a vulgar woman." Seeing that Jacob and Elaine were about to choke again, Claire hurriedly came out to complete the game. "Oh, Mom, Dad, don't you always choke up when you talk? Charlie just came back, and Elsa is here, don't make a joke of yourself." Jacob looked at Elaine and snorted coldly, "I don't know you as much as you look at the face of a girl." Elaine said disdainfully, "Look at what you said, it's like I want to be familiar with you." After that, Elaine turned her head to the side and stopped looking at Jacob. At this time, Elsa said to Claire in embarrassment, "By the way, Claire, Sarah Gu will come to Aurous Hill for a concert next month. Let's go and watch it together." Claire hurriedly smiled and said, "Charlie said he wants to accompany me. He knew Sarah and said that he could get tickets for the front row." Elsa looked at Charlie in shock and asked, "Charlie, do you know Sarah?" Charlie nodded. "Yes, Miss Gu is one of my clients. I have helped her see in some matters before." Elsa blurted out, "Mom, it's so good. Then you must be familiar with Miss Gu. Can you help me find a ticket for the front row? I will pay you twice. Having said that, Elsa was afraid that Charlie would not agree, and clasped her hands together and pleaded, Charlie, like Claire, I have liked Sarah for a long time. I especially want to sit in the first row and watch her concert. Speaking of this, Elsa sighed and said, but her concert front row tickets are too difficult to get. As long as she opens the concert, the rich second generation from all over the country will swarm like flies, and they will grab all the good seats. I have tried several times without success, so I can only ask for your help. Charlie couldn't help feeling big when he heard this. He first promised Sarah that he would go to her concert, and then he promised his wife Claire that he would take her to Sarah's concert. Claire was his wife, and Sarah was his fiancée who had been married since she was a child. Taking his wife to see his fiancée's concert was very uncomfortable in itself. He didn't expect Elsa to join in the fun at this time. Elsa liked Charlie's things, Charlie had known this for a long time. And he also knows that Elsa has a fiery personality and courage. When she was in the hot spring with him and his wife, she dared to run to him while his wife was asleep and confessed. If she was there at Sarah's concert, it would not be right. One can't know how messy it will be. So Charlie said embarrassedly, Elsa, I'm really sorry, I may not be able to help you with this matter, because I have already greeted Miss Gu, and Miss Gu said that at most 2 tickets can be arranged for me. As you know, the relationship between me and Miss Gu is nothing but the client relationship between Party A and Party B. It is very hard even to get just 2 tickets. I really don't want to feel embarrassed by asking for someone more. When Elsa heard this, she didn't have much doubt in her heart. She thought to herself, Sarah's concert tickets are always hard to find, and the seats in the front row are hard to change. Charlie just helped Sarah. It is indeed very rare that people can promise him 2 tickets for the front row. No matter how much he asks, it seems that Charlie is a little careless. I can't let Charlie look down upon me to get tickets. Thinking of this, she hurriedly said, then I will think of ways myself. If I can't get the tickets for the front row, I will be satisfied when I get a ticket for the first 5 rows. Charlie was also slightly relieved when he heard this. He felt that if he couldn't prevent Elsa from going to the concert, it would be a good thing for Elsa to sit a little further away from him and his wife. At least, he can be less stressed when the time comes. Charlie knew very well that if she asked Sarah for 3 tickets, she would definitely not refuse, and she would definitely give 3 consecutive seats. What if Elsa had to sit next to him? So, if he can't agree to her request, let her find a way to get the tickets. The best situation is that she can't get the first row seat, but step back and say, if she gets the first row seat, as long as she doesn't sit next to him, he has nothing to worry about. At this time, Elsa said to Claire again, Claire, do you want to go shopping together in the afternoon? Claire glanced at Charlie and whispered in her ear, Elsa, I don't want to go shopping. I will go to work in 2 days. Charlie has just returned from a few days after going out. I want to stay with him. Elsa was shocked. She could see that when Claire said this, it was entirely from the heart. This made Elsa realize that Claire, who has always been less sensitive to feelings, might have truly fallen in love with Charlie. This made her very sad. She used to feel that Claire married Charlie only under the pressure of her grandfather. From an emotional point of view, she definitely did not love Charlie. In that case, digging a corner by yourself will feel at ease. However, if the girlfriend really fell in love with Charlie, wouldn't they both be happy? If that were the case, it would indeed seem a bit immoral to grab love with a sword. At this moment, Elsa wondered if she would give up pursuing Charlie. If she gave up pursuing Charlie, there would be no need for her to stay in Aurous Hill. After that, the chairman of the Embrand group has not shown up yet, and Elsa's family has also given up the idea of letting her catch this line. This time Elsa went back to the new year, and the Dong family hoped that she would quit her job at Embrand Group and return to Eastcliff for development. But Elsa said she didn't want to resign because she didn't want to give up Charlie. But at this moment, Elsa felt a little shaken in her heart. At a certain moment, she even felt that she might as well leave Aurous Hill and return to Eastcliff to develop well. In this case, not only can keep a girlfriend's relationship with Claire but also her career and relationship will not be delayed. After that, no matter how much energy she puts into Charlie, it is difficult to get the return she wants. In the end, it is very likely that her feelings will be exhausted. However, thinking of Charlie, Elsa's strong feeling of admiration could not be restrained at all. She felt that if she gave up Charlie, she might not find a man who could make her heart move like him in her entire life. After thinking about it, Elsa decided, I want to stay in Aurous Hill and continue to fight. If Charlie is willing to accept me, then even if I am cast aside by the people of the world, I will never hesitate. However, if one day it is confirmed that I don't stand a chance, then I will completely withdraw, return to Eastcliff without hesitation, and never see Charlie again.